So, let's talk about whether you should turn your passion into a profession and what it would take to do so. This is something that I had to face in my personal life very recently. Hopefully, for those of you who are in a similar situation, it might give you some perspective. One of the inevitable fates that you're going to face as you get older is you don't have the time to explore every aspect of everything that you enjoy. When you're young, you can afford to just sporadically dump 3 months of time into learning random things like painting or making music or coding or martial arts. It's really fun to get good at something, but in order to get good at something, it requires you to spend time practicing. And if you want to be able to stand out in any particular field, it usually requires you to spend more time practicing than others around you. I'm a gamer, so I'm going to use a gaming analogy, but if you're in a Smash Bros. Tournament, you might enjoy playing as Mario and Pikachu and Charizard and Ganon and Ness. But if you want to actually be able to get somewhere in a tournament, you'll get a lot farther, a lot faster if you specialize on one character and maybe have one backup secondary for counterpicks. That's just how life is. Nobody is afraid of the guy in bracket who spends 10 minutes a day practicing 40 different characters. But as soon as you find out your next opponent spent his whole life just practicing with Pikachu, you know for a fact this is going to be a tough fight. And in the same way, it's very similar when you're trying to turn your passion into a profession. For me, my passion was always 3D character creation. That was the part that I enjoyed the most, and I loved that point when I finally got to see a character come to life in an engine, moving around and blowing things up. But as you get older, life responsibilities start to set in. Reality eventually hits you with a clear choice. 1, you get a job that pays your bills and put your passion on the back burner as a hobby. Or 2, you turn your passion into a profession. This is the quintessential choice that every artist inevitably faces sooner or later. And this hit me in the face last year. See, for 95% of my life, I always had an odd job to keep the lights on that was unrelated to game design. I've done everything from working food, retail, tech, web design, and sales. And after getting home from work, at the end of the day, I would just work on my passion as a game designer. But I really wanted to do game design professionally, so after creating multiple small games by myself, I finally started to apply to just about every position that I could find that I thought I had relevant experience for. And after sending out about 500 applications, I got a few interviews, but I always got snuffed out because my portfolio was always too general. See, I could show that I knew how to make textures and models and animations and music and UI and some code, but none of it ever met the standard of what a professional in those fields was expected to deliver. Then one day I was lucky enough to have someone in the industry look over my stuff and tell me exactly what I was doing wrong. And then they asked me, what kind of position do you want to apply for? And I said, well, I'm really open to any field, honestly. And then they said, okay, well, let's just say you were applying to a 3D character modeling position. What would your portfolio for that look like? So I collected a bunch of images and screenshots and videos of characters that I had created for all the projects I've worked on in the past. And then he told me, yeah, this is the problem. A real character artist spends hours sculpting the insides of the mouth, the folds on the clothing, texturing the skin pores, making sure the veins beneath the skin are the right color, getting the material of the eye to look like perfect glass beneath the eyelids, fixing the insides of the mouth to make sure that the tongue and the teeth are properly sized and are pivoting correctly when the mouth is opened. These are things that professional 3D modelers are expected to be able to deliver, but I'm not seeing any of those details on any of your characters. And that's when I realized 2 important things. 1, because I was the jack of all trades doing everything in my game, I never had time to even think about perfecting those little details on any part of my work. And 2, if I really wanted to work in the industry professionally, I was gonna have to pick a path and learn the inner workings of that path to an extreme detail. If I was going to spend all day modeling and texturing veins underneath the eyelids and skin pores on the face and the teeth and tongue on the inside of the mouth, there was no way that I was going to have time to keep learning to play with other things like music or UI or programming a leaderboard. And luckily, I did find an entry position as a 3D technical artist where my primary specialization is essentially rigging, animating, and preparing technical things that are required to get a 3D character properly into a game engine and making sure that they are also motion capture compatible. But it's kind of ironic because I always thought I was going to be a character modeler. That was always my default passion that I enjoyed the most. However, all of my experience and now my profession is in the 3D technical aspect of maintaining, importing, and exporting the character properly. And as it turns out, I naturally tend to be a much better technical artist than I am a character modeler. And I did feel really conflicted on this because I'm super grateful that I finally got a nice job. I love my team, my boss is awesome, and I'm surrounded by incredible professionals in every direction. But there was definitely a little part of me that was still kind of sad because I always thought that one day my characters were gonna look like this. Just super awesome, photorealistic with all the details. But the farther that I go down this road of specialization, the more I realize I just don't have the kind of time needed to practice modeling my characters at that level. The way things are now, my entire schedule looks like I wake up, go to work, get off, go to the gym, take care of family and friends, and then with whatever small amount of time I have left in the day, basically I try and make new fun content here for you guys on YouTube. Now there's a small chance that I might be able to squeeze some character modeling stuff into the YouTube portion of my schedule, but honestly, as far as YouTube goes, I'm really trying to pivot the channel in a way that would be more fun and entertaining for you guys. And I have a few ideas that I really want to try that I think you're going to like, but it's definitely going to take a lot of time before that new pivot starts picking off the ground. So at least for now, I've just kind of accepted that these are just some of the things that I'm going to have to let go in order to be a responsible person. But it definitely wasn't easy to make that decision to explore this field to its fullest and exclude all others. Now, obviously, your situation might be different. Maybe you want to keep your passion as a hobby and therefore allow yourself to explore whatever parts of it that you enjoy. Or maybe you want to find a way to turn your passion into a profession the way I did. But regardless, I just wanted to let you know that this is something that you might want to give some thought onto early. There are a lot of different paths that you could probably take your skills down, and every path, no matter which one you pick, is going to be challenging. Being a 3D modeler is not easy. Being a programmer is not easy. Being an animator is not easy. Being a musician is not easy. So if you can, I just recommend that you pick a path that you could see yourself being proud of. That's really the best advice I can give. Good luck. Hope that helps. And as always, hope you have a fantastic day. And I'll see you around.